And we have a remarkable story to follow that involves spies, court-martials, a Victoria Cross and a replica boat that's taken 6 years to make.
Takes a bit of explaining this one. Let's go to Portsmouth Dockyard. Our correspondent Duncan Kennedy is there. And Duncan, this is a story going back, what, 100 years now, isn't it? And quite a challenge for those people who are trying to mark an amazing occasion. Tell us more.
Absolutely right there, Charlie. It does go back 100 years to this particular vessel. It's called a CMB-4, built in 1916, about 40 feet long, 14 metres or so, made almost entirely of wood, apart from the engine and one or two other bits. It's a story about the person who designed this boat and a replica that's been made of it. The replica is just down below there. We're going to take you there in a few moments. I just want to explain, before we go down, a little bit about the co-designer of this original boat, the CMB-4, because that original designer was a woman called Blanche Thornycroft. And if you think about it, 100 years ago, it was almost unheard of that women would be involved in naval engineering designs like that. But she was a brilliant mathematician and a brilliant modeller, and she helped co-design this boat. And we can see from these Pathé pictures what these kinds of boats look like. The one we're seeing in a second is one that's a later model, but you can see how fast it goes. These vessels went 35 knots, and crucially, they had a flat hull, which made them sneaky. They could sneak into ports, over mines, and come back out again. And that's why British intelligence liked them. They used these kinds of boats during the Russian Revolution to ferry secret agents in and out of Russia from countries like Finland, Estonia and Latvia. And that brings us to the second most important character in this story, after Blanche, and that's Commander Augustus Agar. He was commander of the CMB-4, and he ran these secret agent missions into Russia during the Russian Revolution. But in June 1919, he saw Russian ships bombard the port of Kronstadt, and he saw women and children dying. So he decided single-handedly to take on the Russians with his CMB-4 craft. And against the orders of his bosses, who told him not to do anything, he launched the torpedo and sank a Russian cruiser called the Oleg. And we've got a picture of that Oleg that Commander Agar managed to sink. Now, he almost faced a court-martial for disobeying orders, but in the end, they realised this was an amazing, heroic act, and just a couple of months after that mission, he was awarded the Victoria Cross by the King. Now, fast forward 100 years on, and we've got a tribute to both Blanche and Commander Agar in the form of this replica. And on board for us today is Diggory Rose, who's the boatman here and who's helped build it. He's a bit below us today because the tide is going down. Diggory, first of all, we know it's got a few modern bits like a modern engine and some modern safety kit, but otherwise, how close is it to that replica of Blanche's that we've just seen?
So crucially, she's the same shape, exactly the same shape and the same weight. And although it's a modern engine, it has a similar power output. So we're able to use this to assess the performance characteristics of the boats and recreate the experiences that Agar and his contemporaries would have had.
How difficult was it to make it, bearing in mind the plans from Blanche were 100 years old, yes. A lot of it's made out of wood. How difficult was it? Because you weren't all boat makers. No,
and the volunteers came from a very disparate background, and many of them had never built a boat before. We had some difficulty that timber that was used at the time is no longer available, and the drawings, we had access to a complete collection of drawings from the National Maritime Museum, but inevitably there are details missing, and we had to conjecture to small amounts of the work. But we think that we've created a faithful replica, and certainly the performance suggests that we're on the right track.
We've got the fake torpedo next to you. It actually looks like an ocean-going yacht. It's so beautiful. But quite an operation by Augustus Agar to attack that Russian cruiser, the Oleg.
Indeed, and a bit of opportunism on his part. His role was, as you said, to recover agents in St. Petersburg. And for that reason, the boats were painted white to look like yachts, and Agar and his crew could pose as yacht salesmen. But yes, and then the daring undertaking to take on the Oleg was an opportunity not to be missed.
OK, Diggory, thank you very much indeed. Well, about 25 or 30 volunteers were involved in making that craft, ranging in age from mid-20s to right up to 84 years old. And Hannah Prowse is the chief executive of the charitable trust here behind the project, A big day for you. The launch is finally here.
Finally, after 6 years of amazingly hard work, immense generosity from our funders, and a lot of work by the team, as you said, most of whom are volunteers.
You're a big fan of Blanche Thornycroft. You find her an inspirational figure.
Absolutely. Any woman doing fantastic work is a figure. But I think the important thing about Blanche is that she was made a member of the Institute of Naval Architects. She was one of the first 3 women back in 1919. She had the talent, but she also had the opportunity because her father, John I. Thornycroft, was one of the great naval architects of any age. So the important thing is that girls are given the opportunity to succeed.
All right, Hannah, thank you very much indeed. The big launch is this afternoon. About 100 people will be here to witness the launch. It'll then be open to the public. They can come and visit it. It'll be on land. And next year, it'll be out on the water. And there'll be some boat-to-boat opportunities for people to take shots of this in its prime and learn all about the history of Augustus Agar, Blanche Thornycroft, and this incredible vessel, the CMB4.
Duncan Kennedy, thank you so much. A fascinating story, and if I may say, brilliantly told by Duncan.
It was a real journey back in time.